Are you trying to establish your brand as a thought leader? Start a podcast, invite industry experts to be guests on your show, and watch your brand become the prime resource for decision makers in your industry. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to the B2B Growth Show, a podcast dedicated to helping B2B executives achieve explosive growth. Whether you're looking for techniques and strategies or tools and resources, you've come to the right place. I'm Jonathan Green.
And I'm James Carberry.
Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. We are here today with Marie Wiese. She's the president of Marketing Copilot, and she's also the author of You Can't Be Everywhere. Marie, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on the show.
I'm really excited to chat with you today, Marie. We were talking a bit offline, and this topic is super interesting to me. We're going to be talking about the new intersection of sales and marketing, and particularly in the lead generation process. So before we dive into that, Marie, can you just briefly tell our listeners a little bit about Marketing Copilot? I want them to understand why you're the person that should be talking about this particular topic.
Sure, I'd love to. So Marketing Copilot has been around since 2006. We specialize in helping businesses who sell to other businesses, so B2B, companies turn their websites into their best sales engines. And we've been doing that for a while. We've worked with over 100 B2B companies across North America. We've seen some really great success in the methodology that we've developed, which also led to me writing the book. And so a lot of what's in the book, You Can't Be Everywhere, is part of that methodology. And I also personally do work with entrepreneurs and startups at the Innovation Factory, which is a regional innovation center. And I've been able to test a lot of these concepts with companies as they're starting and growing their businesses. So I'm incredibly proud of that.
I love it, Marie. So we've got a lot that we're going to dive into here. So I'd love to just jump right in. And as we were, talking offline about this new intersection of sales and marketing, particularly as it relates to the lead gen process, you mentioned one of the very first things you said is, that if marketers are not paying attention to social selling, particularly the difference between really broadcasting, just broadcasting on social versus taking ownership of the content that's being shared and the conversations that are stemming as a result, then there's a huge missed opportunity there. Can you talk to us about that? I think it'll really set the stage for the rest of this conversation.
Yeah, so I've been a B2B marketer for a long time. I would say even close to 30 years. And I think that as I talk to marketers all the time, I feel their pain. And a lot of times they, have been really strong in the marketing communications area. They're trying to transition to digital. And I find sometimes a lot of marketers can be a little bit hesitant to jump into this because the line between marketing and sales has blurred. It's blurred incredibly in a very profound way. And it's blurred because of the changed buyer behavior, and that everybody can go to a website, look up people, look up information, self-serve, self-select. They don't really need to, at the front end of the buying process, speak to a salesperson anymore. And you'll see that a lot of B2B sales forces are incredibly discouraged at how poorly cold calling does and a lot of other tools. So there's never been a more profound time for marketing and sales to get on the same page. But that's going to mean a couple of things have to happen. It means that marketers really have to start to take responsibility for understanding what is a lead, the lead cycle, qualifying leads, and passing information over to sales that's ready, qualified, and good. And sales has to be willing to really share data and information around what will close and what makes a sale. And I know that for years and years as a marketer, I would hear from salespeople, we don't like the leads you're giving us. They're not very good. They're crappy. And then we'd hear from marketers, I'm sending all these leads over to the sales team and they don't want to follow up on anything. So there's never been a more profound time for this intersection to take place because of changed buyer behavior. And now with a whole bunch of new tools and data and things that we can do on the B2B side, we need to bring those into the forefold, and we need to get everybody working together on the same page, because that's the only thing that's going to move sales forward. So marketers have to stop thinking about broadcasting and pushing out advertising or whatever it is they're doing, and they need to really start thinking what brought the right people to a website, how can I qualify them, and how can I really help sales make a sale. And it's really important for people to embrace that concept and stop with the silos, stop with the individual plans that happen on the sales or the marketing side. It needs to come together because at the end of the day, it's a continuous cycle for the buyer. So it can't be this siloed approach inside a company.
Okay, so that part, Marie, is interesting to me, challenging marketers to own lead generation. And you talk about, a process in your book, like you alluded to before, of a framework, if you will, that you guys have developed that is repeatable and that, lots of companies have seen success in using. Can you talk to us about just practically, what does it look like for marketers to really own lead generation, to take that ownership that you were talking about? Obviously, I want folks to buy the book to see the full kind of framework fleshed out, but I'd love for you to give us some insights here on, what are some tangible things that can be done to own lead generation in a way that's sustainable?
So I'd love to. And one of the things I speak to too many marketers who don't have as much contact with customers as they need to. So the secret message in the book, and it's not so secret, and I'm willing to share it with anybody who wants to listen, is all of this starts with your customer. It starts with who's buying from you today, why they're buying from you, and why they will continue to buy or tell others to buy. And not enough marketers have that direct touch point with the customer, which sales has the benefit of having that touch point. They were the ones who might have closed a deal. They were the ones who might be able to say, here's why you should be buying. And they're going to have all of that great content. And so it has to start with marketers sitting down with their sales team. And one of the things we offer on our website, we talk about in the book, is a customer scorecard. Taking inventory of everybody who's bought from you over the last 12 to 18 months. Why did they buy from you? Who's a good customer? What was maybe a more challenging sale? And having that very interactive dialogue with your sales team about the customer scorecard and working out from there then what types of content information did the customers need in the buying process that could be very usable on a website or in the lead gen process to bring people in to start to have the dialogue digitally as you're warming them up to have a conversation with your sales team. So it starts with the customer scorecard. It then goes to what you would want to do is profile a buyer persona, and these things lead to customer-centric content. And that's what I think a lot of people are struggling with today. They want to talk about features and functions of products or what our services do. They want to talk about themselves. But when customers are self-serving and trying to figure out if they should put you on the short list, they want it to be reflective of them, not you. And the only way to get to that is customer-centric content. The only way to do that really well is to have those very valuable, real conversations with your sales team in a structured way that allows you as a marketer to build the right content and build the right plan to get the leads in the first place.
Got it. And does that, in the clients that you're working with, Marie, are they figuring out ways to kind of tie back that content specifically to their offering, or are you finding that a lot of folks are kind of, with the rise of content marketing, there's a lot of folks putting out great content now, and there's so many people doing it, and some people are a little bit more salesy in it than others. But then I see some people that don't talk about what they do at all. And so I see the same, articles popping up from the same brands, and I catch myself, 7, 8, 9 articles in going, I still don't really know what these guys do. What are your thoughts on that as people shift to more of a customer-centric content strategy?
Well, I think there isn't a lot of good content out there. And particularly B2B companies struggle with this. Now, there might be more so in a consumer organization, consumer-facing products, when it's a little bit easier to talk about bigger ideas and things. But on the business-to-business side, I think a lot of people struggle, particularly companies with complex solution or complex problems that can't be explained in a 140-character tweet. And so I think they're struggling with this. So one of the things that we talk about when we're trying to build out a content roadmap about what people need to consume before they'll pick up the phone and call you is, perceived barriers or obstacles. And this is, again, why the customer scorecard is so important. We're all afraid to talk about reasons why people won't buy from us. And there's probably a set of 3 to 6 very important points about why certain people don't buy from you. And if they're going through their head about why they don't buy, there's nothing wrong with having content that maps back to that to talk about where you're positioned differently or why that's not a good fit. And so a buyer persona with a customer scorecard allows us to see what's going on in that person's head and very carefully tailor content based on what they're struggling with as they're making a buying decision. And I believe that's why there's not a lot of good content out there, is because a lot of people don't follow this process and they just come up with stuff and think it's going to stick. And some people do really go for a branding strategy where they want to talk about a big problem and they don't want to talk about what they do. But what I find when I go onto a lot of websites of companies is if I can't figure out in 30 seconds or less why you might be a good choice for me, I'm not sticking around and I'm not taking the next step to click on something. So you better get down to brass tacks fast around what type of customer you serve and why people are connecting with you as a business. And the only way to do that is to model your current customers, your really good customers, and model what they need, because there's obviously lots more people like them out there who you need to connect with in a real way.
Yeah. And we've actually talked to Adele Ravella from the Buyer Persona Institute, and she talked about, you alluded to, building out these buyer personas. And she said that one of the mistakes that people make is they spend too much time and energy talking to existing customers as opposed to people that did not actually buy from you. And to your point of, talking specifically, creating content around the reasons that people do not buy or are hesitant to buy. I think talking to someone that either went with a competitor or they chose not to buy the solution at all, having a process in place to be able to talk to them and figure out why that's the case, and then creating content that maps back to kind of address those things, I think is so smart. And then figuring out how do you deliver that content up, be it on your website or in your marketing automation sequence. I think that's such practical advice, Marie, that if you are not answering those 5 to 6 reasons why people would be hesitant to buy, then you're missing a giant opportunity.
Absolutely. And, I think the other opportunity that gets missed a lot is that, again, this alignment between sales and marketing is constantly checking in with the sales team. What are the recent questions you're getting asked in the sales cycle? As you're going through and asking these questions, the customer or the prospect's asking these questions, do you feel you've answered it well? Did you feel you left things undone? If they asked you for a case study on somebody specifically in your sector, did you deliver it to them? Or did they ask specifically about what the implementation process was going to look like? After I buy from you, then what happens? Did you answer that well? Because if you didn't, that's an opportunity to work with your sales team to A, get those questions answered, and B, develop content around those, because that is what somebody is asking, and it could likely be why they don't buy if they don't like your answer. And if you don't have great content around that, I've worked with lots of software companies as an example who have very weak content around the implementation program of their software. They're kind of afraid to talk about it. They want to sell you on features and benefits, and they don't want to talk about, we've got to dig into some of your business processes, and here's the number of meetings that are going to happen when we sit down to figure out how to implement this. And they're afraid to say this is going to be complicated because they think they'll lose the sale that way. But they end up losing the sale because somebody buys it and goes, oh, this is not what I was expecting. And I think, we see, particularly in the days of what's going on online, is transparency, honesty, integrity around what somebody can expect if they buy from you. Those are all winning ingredients to this whole content strategy that needs to be there.
Yeah, I've totally bought into that transparency in throughout every aspect of what you're doing. So I totally agree with you there, Marie. I want to close the interview talking about marketing automation and some tools to really give some practical application to a lot of what you've been talking about today. What are some tools that you think marketers can leverage to make this process of really taking ownership, making that much easier?
Okay, so thank you for asking that. And I'm not a reseller of software, although we use lots of different software tools. So I want to be clear about that right up front, because I think there's some fantastic products on the market today. But I think it all comes down to three things. It comes down to the resources you have internally to run something, how good a handle you have on your content so you can, as we say, feed the beast so that you can be putting stuff into it and using your automation products. And the third thing is buy-in. I see too many companies buying software today and then it not getting implemented properly or just not getting used because they don't have buy-in from a senior level. And then, oh, what's this monthly fee? We're paying for this. Why do we need this? So we work a lot in the small and medium-sized business sector, and even large companies, we see a lot of people using WordPress as their content management system. And it's a fantastic tool for a really, good and even starter content marketing program. It really does a lot of very interesting things. And if you can harden it and lock it down from a security perspective, I think it's a really beautiful tool. So we tell people there's sort of four main buckets you need to think about. You need to think about how you bring traffic to the front door of your website. So it's a little bit like, I've decided I'm going to throw a party and I want to tell everybody and I want to invite all these people to come. And a lot of people get that right, but then they forget what happens once people show up at the front door. So you need to have tools to track and measure what's coming to the front door, and oftentimes Google Analytics can do some good jobs there, your email marketing platform. But once they hit the front door, you want to know what's happening once they come in the house. So who did they connect with at the party? What rooms did they go in? What did they read? What did they see? And that on-site piece is oftentimes what gets lost. Then the conversion piece is really important. How can I get them to tell me they want to come back? They want to come back to my next party I throw. And what kind of data and information can I track as a result of that? So coming to the front door, coming into the house, what they do while they're in the house and convert to say they want to come back, and then where they're at in their buying cycle based on what they consume, how they interact, and all of that tracking to get to a point where now I can say to my sales guy, this guy's been to 5 of my parties. He's had a fantastic time. You need to spend some time with him and follow up and see if he's ready to buy our solution. And those are the way we think about marketing automation, of the data, the process, and how we can track through that continuum. And that's what I really think marketers have to own today. And they have to own that in conjunction with their sales team so that the sales team can say, those 5 people who you thought were having a great time because they came to all your parties, well, 2 of them were just there because they wanted free food and the other 3 were ready to buy. And here's what we now see as a good lead. Here's what we don't want coming in. Here's what we can kick out. Here's what you can just put back into the nurture cycle because they're not ready yet. And those are all conversations we should be having with the sales folks.
That makes perfect sense, Marie. You have hit the nail on the head, and that explanation was beautifully simple and easy to understand. So I appreciate you walking our listeners through that. If there's somebody, Marie, maybe they want to connect with you and dig in more on this stuff, or if they want to learn more about what you and your team are doing at Marketing Copilot, possibly working with you in that regard, or if they want to check out your book, can you tell us how listeners can do all 3 of those things?
Absolutely. So we're going to put up a blog post in conjunction with this on our site at marketingcopilot.com. And we have a sales and marketing alignment tool that we want to offer and give away to everybody. Because if you're having a hard time selling some of this at the management level, we've got a very simple 5-page guide to take it to management, explain to them why you need to be doing it, and what a really good roadmap is to get started on this thing called marketing and sales alignment, but really marketing automation and really owning the lead gen process. So at marketingcopilot.com, all one word, you can connect with us there. You'll see a post on this topic. You can download some good stuff. That's great. The book is available at amazon.com. Amazon.com and Amazon.ca in both paperback and PDF. You can go purchase it from there. Just search my name or search You Can't Be Everywhere and you'll find it. And if you want to go to mariewiese.com, MarieWiese.com, you can just put your email address in and get the first chapter for free. And you can download the first chapter for free.
I love it. Marie, this has been fantastic. I really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much, and really excited to get this out to all of our listeners.
Thank you. It's I love your show, and I think it's so important for all B2B marketers to be listening to this.
To ensure that you never miss an episode of the B2B Growth Show, subscribe to the show on iTunes or your favorite podcast player. This guarantees that every episode will get delivered directly to your device.
If you or someone you know would be an incredible guest for the B2B Growth Show, email me at jonathan@sweetfishmedia.com. Let us know. We love connecting with B2B executives, and we love sharing their wisdom and perspective with our audience.
Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.